It has been about a week since I played in the Las Vegas CCQ, and that's given me time to decompress from the tournament, but also reflect on the choices I made with deck building. And now I wanted to take some time and go over the deck list that I did use at the tournament, but also talk about some of the changes that I would make if I had to do it all over again with the benefit of hindsight. And starting off, you can see the deck list here. Nothing too surprising. Probably the most shocking thing is the lack of Dumbos. And what I will say is that with Dumbo, or like the number of copies I have of some other high-end cards like Hades or Demona, it really came down to lack of options. I don't have any Dumbos in my collection, and I've never really had an easy time of getting my hands on them. Uh, Same thing with Hades and Demona. I've been lucky enough to find the copies that I've got, but I don't have a full four, which I'm, especially with Demona, probably would have played for if I'd had it. So with that kind of established, starting with that one drop slot, nothing too shocking there. Diablo, Palace Guard, Captain Hook, and Happy. Diablo is a really good card, kind of forces your opponent to either remove it and letting you draw a card, or they let you quest with it indefinitely and keep gaining lore off of that. Palace Guard, good willpower, and so he's going to stick around a little bit, but also your opponents probably aren't going to throw any removal at it to trigger its vanish ability. And then Captain Hook, great situational card. If you're on the play, you can ink it, or if you're on the draw, you can play it to put pressure on your opponent with whatever they played on their first turn. And then, of course, Happy, just an early game threat to evasives. In the 2-drop slot, extremely crowded. 3 Madam Mims, giving Challenger +1 to all my other characters. Timothy Q. Mouse, which gains an extra lore if I have a evasive character in play. Black Heron, which has a really good stat line, an inkable 2 cost with 3 strength and 3 willpower. Calhoun, of course, um, gaining 2 lore when she banishes a character on my turn, which I love abilities that gain me lore in non-traditional ways, like Calhoun or the Giant Cobra, which we've got sitting at in the 3-drop slot, or something like Baymax, Armored Companion, which gains lore off of removing damage, or, of course, A Pirate's Life, the bane of many existences, but one of my favorite cards. And then Doc for card draw, because Steel doesn't have a ton of options therein. In the 3-drop slot, we're running that Giant Cobra, which actually I won a match because of Giant Cobra. Both games, actually. First game, I had enough characters in play to quest to 18, but then I played Madam Mim Elephant to bounce the Cobra I had in play back to hand. Then I played it again and discarded to get me to 20. And then on the second game, I just top decked a Cobra to put me over the top. And then Tinkerbell as a cheap evasive with good lore stats. And then Lexington, a large body of 4/4 that can take out evasives with that alert ability. 4-drop slot, Genie, kind of a staple, draws you a card when it enters play and has 2 lore. Madam Mim, a little more surprising. I had several people remark on the inclusion of Madam Mim. In the 5-drop slot, Belle Accomplished Mystic. Her ability to move damage from any character to your opponents is great. Elsa, probably my favorite card in Amethyst. Helps with a little bit of board control as well as removing smaller threats. I love this spirit, I really do. And then Hades, his ability to force a choice upon your opponent to either bury a character at the bottom of their deck or letting you draw 2 cards. 6-drop slot was just Demona. I'm still not convinced this isn't the best card from Whispers in the Well, where she comes in, completely controls your opponent's board, and it draws up to 3 cards. Elsa, Spirit of Winter, is at the 8-drop slot. I actually won a game because of Elsa, Spirit of Winter. I was able to shift her onto an existing copy of 5th Spirit, which gave me just enough lore for the quest win. 1 copy of Everybody's Got a Weakness for a little bit of card draw, and then 4 copies of Strength of a Raging Fire. So that's the deck that I took to CCQ. And after playing in 7 rounds, getting a DQ win in another round because my opponent never showed, and skipping out on the last round because it was getting super late and my record wasn't fantastic. Um, I learned a lot and I've thought about it. So I wanted to show you the list that I would take to CCQ if I had to do it all over again. And what you probably notice is there's still no Dumbo. Still no Dumbo. And largely because of my ability to get my hands on a Dumbo. But with that said, so the 1-drops are largely the same. I just took out that copy of Happy because I wasn't happy with it. I didn't think that it was giving me enough value to justify it when I wanted to include some of these other cards. The 2-drop slot, Madam Mim and Timothy Q Mouse were gone. I think both are cute tricks. I don't think it's a good enough trick to justify leaving in the deck list. First edition into this, of course, we added another copy of Black Heron because I do like that stat line. First real edition, though, is Cheshire Cat. The reason I didn't include it initially was because I made a huge mistake. I was completely misreading Cheshire Cat. I thought that when it was boosted, you could move damage from your characters to your opponent's characters. I did not realize that it was moving damage from any character to an opposing character. And if I had recognized that, I definitely would have included Cheshire Cat in to begin with. Just, that's fantastic. Every time Cheshire Cat got dropped on me during the tournament, I paid for it dearly. I like this card quite a bit. I did pare down Lexington just a little, just by 1 copy, because it's a great stat line, but I just needed the space for other cards, and I really do think 2 copies of Lexington is enough. Then I did the same thing with Madam Mim. I didn't keep her around because of her bounce ability, which, though it did win me a game in the tournament, I think that's another one of those cute tricks. I kept her around because she is a larger body that could conceivably soak up damage. So for that reason, she's still there. 3 copies of Belle still, 4 copies of Elsa. Hades, gone. And the reason why is I had a very good conversation with one of my opponents. He was playing Ruby Amethyst, and he pointed this out, that Hades and Demona are working at cross purposes. So Hades is going to come down on turn 5, force your opponents to make a choice. Your opponents, really, if they're smart, they let you draw the cards and keep their board state. But that means you have now drawn 2 cards, and if you're dropping Demona the next turn, you're not getting as much value out of her as you could be without that card draw from Hades. And of those 2 cards, I actually think Demona is the stronger card. She gives you better board control and sets you up for a larger swing. So I do like Demona a lot more than Hades. And so Hades out, Demona in. Still kept a copy of Spirit of Winter just because I think that is a great top deck Hail Mary that can come down and win games. Everybody's got a weakness out. I never actually used it for its intended purpose. And largely because I was either removing damage with something like Belle, or I didn't get to keep my damage around on my characters. My characters were completely removed. So I don't think Everybody's Got a Weakness really worked in that build. Still have 4 strength of a Raging Fire because that's a great card. 3 copies of Heraldus Thunderbolt. I honestly couldn't tell you why I left it out of my initial deck list. I thought I left a couple of copies in there. I did not. That was a big blunder. There's a couple of times when if I had drawn Heraldus Thunderbolt, it could have changed the game quite a bit. I like that there's so many characters in my deck that can sing it, and I like that it can come in and just nuke something really powerful. Almost a lot of the cards in my own deck could be and were removed by Heraldus Thunderbolt. Only 3 copies, though, just because of that uninkable, and I'm trying to keep uninkables really low in this deck. And then 4 copies of Junior Woodchuck Guidebook. This is another one of those cards that I had conversations about where it's so valuable. It's a lot like Friends on the Other Side, very similar value there. And I realized that I wasn't running a lot of card draw in Amethyst, which is the best ink color for card draw, and I really needed to take more advantage of that. All in all, the deck is 61 cards. I like to be pretty flexible with the number of cards in my deck, so I'm not above going higher than 60 cards. So there it is. If I had to do CCQ all over again, this is the Amethyst Steel build that I would probably bring. If you are curious how I actually performed in the tournament, go ahead and check out this video where I kind of break down a little bit about my performance, a little bit about lessons learned, and just the overall experience that I had. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.